Before we talk about how to achieve more, we first have to understand, what is achievement? What is it to you? It's not always standing on a podium with a prize in your hand and a champagne in the other. It can be that, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be a hot cup of tea in your hand on a Sunday morning, admiring all the hard work that you've done in your garden. Achievement is not a thing. It's a feeling. It's a feeling like this whole trip to Earth was worth it because you get to do what you want to do. How do you feel day to day? Do you jump out of bed and can't wait to get started, excited to seize the day? Or do you trudge along, procrastinating the day away, playing Candy Crush in the office bathroom, waiting for the day to be over? Don't worry, I haven't been spying on you. I've been there, in both situations. When I worked as a doctor, one of my rotations was on a psychiatric hospital ward. And let me tell you about that experience. It was filled with meetings. So many meetings. And most of them, they went absolutely nowhere. On paper, it looked like a dream job. It was 9 to 4 with an hour-and-a-half lunch break. I didn't have to stand around all day doing surgery, skipping lunch, not being able to drink because I was scared I need to go to the bathroom. This was a comfortable job. But here's the thing I discovered. Sometimes the easiest path isn't always the most fulfilling one. I would sit in those meetings, waiting for it to be over, watching the clock, feeling like my life was trickling away, and I wasn't using any of the special abilities or gifts that I have. In a way, I view all of us as superheroes. Do you ever watch that TV show Heroes? Some people have great gifts like flying and telepathy. But other people have really small but useful gifts. Like one of mine is empathy. I can feel into other people's emotions, be it that across a camera, across a hall full of people, or one-to-one. And that power has downsides and upsides, but it is my power. And it's something that not everybody possesses, and it's something that I like to use to make people feel better or to help people achieve more and see the best in themselves. I wasn't able to use any of my unique skills at this job. In fact, I felt like anybody could do this job better than I can. Because I have a restless mind, I like to make things, I'm curious. These are the unique things that make me, me. And when you get to use all of those things, it feels incredible. And when you don't, it feels like life is stagnant, like you're just dragging your body around. Now, I have to say, I have enormous respect for people in the psychiatric profession. It takes so much hard work and care and giving to be able to perform at this job. And yet, so often these amazing professionals just watch their patients deteriorate without a lot that they can do. Because we just don't understand the mind anywhere near as well as other diseases and other parts of our bodies, like cardiovascular disease or tuberculosis. We're limited to very few things that we can do because we don't really know what's going on up there. And for me, that experience was a wake-up call. I wasn't living the life I wanted. I wasn't doing what I was good at. And I felt like I was wasting my life away. And that's what led me to start teaching coding on my weekends to friends, to family, basically anyone who would listen to me, and sit down in my kitchen so I could show them how to make an iOS app. And that's really where it all started. And so in a way, we've come full circle, going from me being completely lost to a point where I want to find you and figure out how I can help you see the light in your life and seize what is most valuable to you to be able to use those special skills that you were given. So even though in many people's eyes, my parents included, being a doctor is a huge achievement, it was and it wasn't for me. I found so much more achievement in helping people learn programming, in helping people change jobs, or start that company that they always wanted to build by learning these technical skills. That was what made me feel like I was contributing to the world in my own small little way. So don't worry about what achievement is in other people's eyes. The only eyes that matter are yours, because you're the one who has to live that life that you choose. Before we head out on a journey, we need to know where we're going. Sometimes people get lost and they run around in a circle because they haven't set proper goals. So what makes a good goal? So think about what is excitingly ambitious to you. Just to you, not to anybody else. Don't think about, oh, what would so-and-so think of me once I have this? Once I'm driving that Ferrari down the road, my neighbors are gonna look at me like, wow, Angela's made it. Don't think about it like that. Think about what would make you excited to achieve. The other thing about choosing a great goal is you should aim to be the best, the very best in the world.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was.
Now, I know it's ambitious and I know it feels really crazy. Like, I want to be the best swimmer in the world. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Depends on your age, depends on your body build, depends on a whole bunch of things. But I know for sure that if I aim to be an okay swimmer, that is going to be a really unexciting goal. And it might not even get me into the pool as a motivation. So no matter what it is you want to do, aim for the highest. And even if you don't get there, you'll get much further than you do if you're keeping it humble. So be a humble person, but your goals are going to be the most outrageous, the most exciting, the most ambitious goals that you can think of. In fact, when I thought about creating courses, my goal was to be the person who created the best programming courses in the world. Every time I thought about how I would create a new lesson or how I would create a new exercise, I always thought about what would be the best in the world? What would be something that people have not seen, and once they see it, it would excite them or it would make everything super easy to understand. I aimed so high and sometimes I didn't reach it. But most cases, I did a lot better than I could have ever imagined by just setting my goal so much higher where I have to reach to get it. And the final thing to think about when you're coming up with your goal is to think about something that is lasting, something that is meaningful. What's something that you could do that would matter to people in 100 years? Now, you might think, that's kind of crazy. Why do I need to matter to people in 100 years? But these types of goals, these meaningful goals, really drive us humans in a different way to something that is about tomorrow or in a week's time. Because in most cases, when we think about things in these large timelines, 100 years, 1,000 years, then we stop making that goal about ourselves and we start making it about other people. And deep down, I believe that all of us want to contribute to other people, to the world in some small way. So when you frame your goals in this mindset, what is my goal that would allow me to achieve something that would matter to people in 100 years? You make it bigger than yourself. And that also will give you an extra boost of motivation. So what are some good goals? Let's say you're running a startup. Maybe your goal is to get to 1,000 paying customers. Or if you're a student, maybe your goal is to pass all your exams so you end up with that certificate that says, here, this person has achieved this degree. When I was a fashion model, my goal was to get onto the most prestigious stage, London Fashion Week. And I had to try and figure out what are all the things that I need to do and who are all the people I need to impress in order to get there and achieve my goal. When I was in medical school, my goal was to pass all my exams, satisfy all the academic requirements so that I end up with that certificate that says, Angela Yu, you now get to put 4 letters at the end of your name. Now I've become Angela Yu, MBBS. Somebody who can be your doctor or be your surgeon. When I started running my startup, I had this big post-it note that I put onto the wall, somewhere where I would see every single morning, and it just had a number on it, 28,000. 28,000 was meaningful to me because it was how much I made working as a doctor. Now, some of you guys in the US might be shocked, but yes, in the UK, that is how much an entry-level doctor made at that time. And my goal was to be able to make my startup earn me the same amount of money as I would working as a doctor so that I can transition into doing this full-time. So at different stages, I had completely different goals, and that's fine. Whatever your goals are, just make sure that it's personal, ambitious, and meaningful to you. Now, you've probably heard about goal setting a lot, especially if you work in a corporate job. I've been to lots of these seminars where we set SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, etc. Put that out of your mind. This is a fun process. It's not something that is boring or happens in a stuffy room with lots of people. It's a time where you really get to focus on yourself and focus on what it is that you want. Imagine your life as a movie and you are the movie star. You're the main actor in it. How do you want that movie to play out? So a goal is our destination, and it's going to help us measure our progress along our path of achievement. So now I want you to take out a pen and a piece of paper. I want you to fill that piece of paper with goals. Imagine that you just met a genie or you dug up a lamp and the genie says, instead of the usual, you just have 3 wishes. He says, you can have as many wishes as you want. You can get everything you want. You can achieve absolutely anything as long as you put it down on this piece of paper. So I want you to get scribbling and write down every single possible thing that you could want. It could be a thing, it could be a job, it could be a role, it could be an event, it could be a story, it could be an activity. Just fill that piece of paper with all the things that you would love to experience in your life. And don't worry if some of them sound crazy. A lot of the goals that I had seemed completely crazy and unachievable to me at the time when I set them. And yet, I've seen them happen. I wouldn't be here as somebody who's taught over 3 million people how to code if I didn't set that initial goal down saying that I wanted to teach 1,000 people how to code. So don't worry if it sounds crazy, don't worry if it sounds too unachievable, and don't worry if it sounds like there's no way that you can figure out. Maybe you want to be the President of the United States. Maybe you want to be accepted by NASA as an astronaut. Maybe you want to be on the front cover of Vogue. Whatever it is, don't limit your ambitions. But the only type of goal that I don't recommend is something that is based on somebody else's perception. For example, if you wanted to be the most popular kid in town and that was your ambition, or if you wanted to be the most successful person in your group of friends, or if you wanted every single girl to be attracted to you. These are things that are dependent on somebody else's perception, and that's really dangerous because that perception changes. It really depends on their mood, what they had for breakfast, what's happening back at home. Don't make your goal about somebody else. I remember when I was interviewing as a model, where we had to go to these castings, where I would show them my book, which is this giant book of photos, and it has everything that represents me as a model, what it is that I could be for them. But the thing you realize is everybody has a different view. So in a morning casting, somebody might tell me, "You're the most beautiful thing on earth. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and I want you to do every single job that I'm going to cast for." And then on the same afternoon, wearing the same makeup, wearing the same clothes, being the same person, the only thing I did was maybe I had lunch and somebody would tell me, "You're not the right fit. You don't have the look. You don't look anything like what we're looking for." And you would go from high to low to high to low. And I sat down and I thought, am I changing? Do I really look different from casting to casting? Or is it a case that everybody just has a different perception? And that was an important lesson for me early on. And I'm glad I learned that at age 18 and not age 80, because it meant that I could go about life doing what I wanted, being who I wanted to be, instead of trying to be a version of some perfect ideal for somebody else, because that doesn't exist and everybody has a different perception. So make sure that when you're setting your ambitious goal, make it for you. Don't make it about somebody else. So the only thing that I would say is a bad goal is if you base it on somebody else's perception. Everything else, fair game. Want to be an astronaut? Easy, do it. Put it down. You can get there. Actually, on a recent trip to Houston, visiting the NASA Center and getting the inside scoop on what it takes to be an astronaut, it's actually really not that hard. Yes, it's super competitive and probably 200,000 people compete to get that one job. But then there's much harder things in life, right? So compared to landing on Mars, this is super easy. You just need a degree in a STEM subject. You need to have worked for a couple of years. You need to have the skills that they value, like leadership, communication, maybe a bit of programming, and you could actually get in the door to an interview. So again, what I'm trying to say is don't limit yourself before you even get started. Have your piece of paper ready. If you haven't already started, start writing down a list of all the things that you want to achieve. Cover the page. I want you to at least have one for every single line on that page. Next, I want you to strike out every single goal in there that is somebody else's goal. Now, I can see it. You are a good person. You care about other people, and that's great. But when we're setting goals that we actually want to achieve, they can't be somebody else's goal. They can't be a goal that we're going to do to make somebody happy. That's not enough of a driver. So I want you to cross out everything that is not your own goal. Next, I want you to strike out every goal that is not very ambitious. Like, I want to be able to read a chapter of that book, finally. That is not an ambitious goal. It's not exciting enough. It's not something that you could really sink your teeth into. So cross those out as well. Finally, strike out the goals that are not going to matter to you or anybody else in a couple of years. So ask yourself those three questions. Is it personal? Is it ambitious? And is it meaningful or lasting? And then go in and get rid of all the goals that don't fit those criteria. Now that you've done that, you should be left with a number of goals. And I want you to look through those that have made it through the filter, and I want you to circle just one. the one that is most exciting to you. Now that is your goal. Now you might be sitting there thinking, well, it's easy for you to say all this, Angela. It's easy for you to achieve because you're just more motivated as a person, or maybe you're more disciplined, or maybe you just had better opportunities when you were growing up and everything is easy for you. I know what it feels like when you look at people doing these 5 a.m. morning routine videos. I think, oh my God, I am such a lazy person in comparison. I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. In fact, I think it's physically impossible unless somebody drags me out of bed. It's not about motivation and it's not about discipline. When you start relying on motivation and discipline, you've already lost half the battle. We have to plan. We have to make it worth our time. And the process of achieving, the doing, has to be fun. It has to be exciting to you. Otherwise, you're just being dragged along. And the thing about life is, you can decide to do something for yourself that makes you happy, that puts you in a better place. Or you can wait until life gets sufficiently painful when you have to do something about it. And the choice is yours. You have the freedom to choose. And I can say that having been in both situations, choosing to do something difficult is a lot better than when you're forced to do something difficult. So now that we have our goal, the next step is to break it down, to chunk it into something that is tangible. A big goal like becoming the president of the US or becoming a NASA astronaut, or in my case, making £28,000 from teaching programming was a huge goal for me. It meant freedom. It meant I could do what I wanted to do using the skills that I have. It seemed completely impossible at the time. Like, I had no idea how I was gonna get there. From a big fat zero to 28,000 was a huge leap. One way I made that goal less intimidating to me was to break it down by time. So I calculated that 28,000 divided by 12 is roughly £2,300 per month. And that equates to about £77 per day. And if I was selling my course at £50, that's just selling 2 courses. Now I've reduced that huge number of 28,000 to just 2. And I felt, I could probably sell 2 courses a day. That seems doable. That seems like it's something that I could work up to and it's feasible. Because after all, it's a number that I could count on one hand. So think about your own goal that you wrote up, the one that you circled. How can you break it down? Let's say you want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year. If you broke it down, then that ends up being just an ounce a day. So an ounce is about the weight of a slice of toast. And once you think about it that way, that bigger goal all of a sudden seems like it's kind of doable, right? Or maybe you have another goal. Maybe you want to have 1,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel by the end of the year. If you break all of that down, that's just 3 subscribers a day. Once we get onto the single hand digits, everything is more easily imagined by our brain. And once our brain can wrap ourselves around it, then it becomes easier to achieve as well. So look at your goal and see how you can break it down on a yearly, monthly, weekly, or daily basis, ending up with a smaller goal that's much easier to understand and tackle. But maybe your goal is not something that can be easily divided by time. Maybe it's something much bigger, like becoming an astronaut. When I was working towards becoming a surgeon, it wasn't a goal that could be easily divided by time. And I knew that it was also one of the most competitive things to try and aim for. Because roughly there were 13 people going for a single job, and I had to beat out all 12 of the others in order to be able to get that position on the training role to be able to become the surgeon that I wanted to be. So what did I do? I started asking around people, what does it take to become a neurosurgeon? What does it take for me to shine at that interview and to get through to the interview stage? What are the checkboxes that I need to tick off? And the answers came rolling in. So I started writing them down. It was being able to publish lots of research papers. It was having my name on audits. It was publishing essays that would win national prizes. It was doing a lot of surgery and having a lot of experience, so I would excel at the interviews, and also doing interview prep, having teaching experience, having good leadership experience, having communication skills, everything that I could basically demonstrate to the interviewer that I fit every single criteria they have on their piece of paper. So I created a list of all of these things, and I divided them up by months. Each month I was going to tackle something different, and that was going to be my goal for the month. And by the end of the year, I would have tackled all the things that aren't on the checklist, and hopefully getting much closer to my dream of becoming a surgeon, or at least getting my foot through the door. So I got to a point where I built up this gigantic portfolio of achievements. I did a bunch of research. I completed a teacher training course at Johns Hopkins. I spent my spare time volunteering and helping out at various surgeries. I prepared for interviews. I went to present at different national conferences. Did I catch all the Pokemons? No. For some reason, I sent out loads and loads of essays and I wrote loads of them, and I didn't win a single national prize, which is not so crazy if you think about it. But by dividing the intimidating goal up of, I want to be a surgeon, I want to get a job on a surgical training post in a hospital, into these smaller chunks of items, and then dividing it up over a year to try and tackle one each month, I ended up with a huge portfolio and a very good application. I ended up getting multiple job offers to become a surgeon, and that's how I took one big goal and divided it up into smaller goals which I could tackle one at a time. If you're looking at your big goal and you just have absolutely no idea how to divide it up, then use AI. AI is really good at doing strategic analysis, the kind of stuff that you'd have to pay consultants thousands of pounds to do, but you can get it for free. I've designed a prompt for you to be able to do this. All you need to do is just to insert your goal as well as your advantages and your hindrances. So this is an example prompt for me. I have a big ambitious goal and I want to become a NASA astronaut. Here are all the things I want you to do, and here are my advantages, which is the fact that I already have a medical degree, I already have work experience as a doctor fulfilling most of the criteria, and here are my hindrances. So I unfortunately don't have US citizenship, I'm a citizen of the UK, so help me use all of this information to figure out what is my plan and break down this big goal into smaller chunks that I could tackle. So I put that prompt through to ChatGPT, asking it how I can become a NASA astronaut. And it told me that because of my biggest hindrance, not having US citizenship, it was going to take me quite a few more years, because first I would have to get the citizenship. It also gave me some suggestions of how I should go about that and how many years it would take. And the quickest route apparently was to just go and marry somebody from the US. But it did say if I wasn't so set on NASA, I could also join the European Space Agency, which would be a lot easier because with my medical background and my work experience, I pretty much already qualify. In addition, it suggested some things that I should probably tackle to be able to present better at the interview. Included things like learning Russian so that when I'm on the ISS, I'll be able to communicate with the other astronauts. Also, I would improve my chances if I learn how to fly planes, especially fighter jets. So I could join the military, or in our case, the RAF, the Royal Air Force, to be able to get my time behind the pilot seat. Also, as usual, I should figure out ways to demonstrate my abilities of leadership and communication and teamwork and all the good stuff that you always need for interviews anyways. So it set out a pretty solid plan, to be honest, for me to be able to become either a NASA astronaut or just any old astronaut. And after I read the plan, especially the one that didn't involve getting US citizenship, I'm even half tempted. Maybe my next career will be an astronaut at the European Space Agency. Keep your eyes peeled on my Twitter, you might just see an announcement. Because I do have an obsession that is to do as many professional careers as I possibly can in my small single lifetime. If you got any other ideas for me, do hit me up on Twitter. So try it out yourself. Either break down your goal by yourself, either by time or by task, or just use the prompt that you can find in the prompt booklet and insert the parts that are relevant to you. Here's another plan I generated using Claude for me to become a professional ballerina. And once you have your roadmap, you'll see that crazy big old goal turned into much smaller chunks that you could wrap your head around and you could actually tackle. But you might also be in a situation where you're looking at this big plan and thinking, oh my God, this is even more intimidating than before. I have to do all of these things. What if I'm too lazy? What if I'm not motivated? What if I have no discipline? Well, that's why we have to go one level deeper. And that is focusing on day one. Jeff Bezos often talks about his own obsession with this concept of day one. Instead of focusing on the entire plan, which could span months or years, you're just going to focus on day one. The day tomorrow. The day that you're going to get started. Now, unlike me, becoming a professional ballerina, you're probably not even at the beginning of the journey towards your goal. You're probably somewhere in the middle there. So you've already gotten loads of it done already. All you need to do now is just to take it day by day. Because we often overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what happens when all of those days stack up and what we can achieve in a year or a few years' time. So as long as you just keep taking it one day at a time, day by day, just keep moving forwards, then eventually you're going to look back and you're going to see all of the journey that you've been on just by doing your day by days. In the next section, I'll talk about my personal hacks to get more out of each day and ways that you can accelerate your journey towards your goal. So for all of that and more, I'll see you there.